The sun was just peeking over the horizon, painting the sky in streaks of pink, when I spotted her. Margaret Voss striding through my gate like she owned every blade of grass on my ranch. Her heels stabbed the gravel with each step, a clipboard gripped tight in one manicured hand. Her face had that smug look, the kind that screamed she was above the law. I was cinching the saddle on my mare, Daisy, dust swirling around my boots, when I caught sight of her shiny black SUV parked just past the fence. A placard on the dashboard read, "Pine Hills HOA President." I groaned. Not this nonsense again. She didn't knock, didn't call out, didn't even glance at the weathered sign bolted to the gate that shouted, "Private Property," in bold, peeling letters. No, Margaret was already marching toward my barn, phone glued to her ear, barking about non-compliant structures and aesthetic violations. I jogged to catch up, my voice sharp. "Hey!" She didn't flinch, just raised a finger like I was some kid she could hush. "I'll handle it myself." She snapped into her phone, reaching for the barn door like it was her personal storage shed. That was it. I slammed the door shut with one hand, the other yanking the pepper spray from my belt. "You've got 2 seconds to back off," I said, my voice low, steady. "Or your day's about to get real spicy." Her eyes widened, her nostrils flared, and for the first time, Margaret Voss hesitated. She didn't know I had cameras tucked everywhere, birdhouses, fence posts, even the old weather van recording every second of her trespass. This wasn't just a standoff. It was the opening shot in a war she didn't see coming. 3 weeks earlier, a letter had landed in my mailbox, stamped with the Pine Hills Homeowners Association logo. My ranch sits a good 15 minutes outside town, far from any cul-de-sac or manicured lawn, so I figured it was junk mail. But when I tore it open, my stomach dropped. The letter claimed my land was now under Pine Hills' extended jurisdiction, due to some shady annexation. They called my barn an eyesore, my fences non-regulation, even my hay bales a fire hazard. It was laughable, except it wasn't. These suburban busybodies thought they could waltz into the countryside and slap their rules on a ranch that's been in my family since 1954. I ignored it, assuming it was a mix-up. Then came the second letter, red ink screaming, "Final notice," threatening thousands in fines. I called the number listed, got voicemail, and realized this wasn't a mistake. It was a calculated move. I spent days digging through old files, deed records, survey maps, a yellowed letter from my grandpa proving our claim predated Pine Hills' cookie-cutter neighborhood by decades. Their sub-BVY Shown didn't even exist until the 2000s. But while I was building my case, Margaret was getting bolder. That morning, she showed up. The desert air was cool, the birds just starting to chirp. I was brushing Daisy when her SUV crawled up my road. No call, no warning, just her and a truckload of arrogance. I tried to meet her halfway, thinking she might be lost. Nope. She hit me with a torrent of HOA jargon the second I was in earshot. "This barn violates Code 14B," she snapped. "Those solar panels need to match the approved slate gray palette." I blinked. Palette? This was a working ranch, not her gated community. She pointed at the barn, demanding I file some Form 22C, then reached for the door. I was on her in 2 strides, slamming it shut and raising the pepper spray. "I don't know who told you this is your turf," I said, locking eyes. "But one more step, and you'll find out what pain feels like with mascara." She froze, not scared, but stunned. Nobody had ever called her bluff. She sputtered, spun on her heel, and stormed back to her car, yelling, "This land is under HOA control, and you're making a huge mistake." But she didn't know what I knew. My cameras had caught everything, from her ignoring the sign to her flinching at the spray. That night, over coffee, I watched the footage and shook my head. This wasn't over. Margaret doubled down. Another letter arrived accusing me of excessive irrigation on a ranch that uses drip lines and rainwater. Then they claimed my bull, Brutus, was a public nuisance because joggers on a nearby trail could see him chewing grass. It was death by paper cuts, fines, forms, complaints, hoping I'd cave and repaint my barn to match their beige fantasies. But this land wasn't just dirt to me. It was my dad's ashes under the oak, my childhood mornings feeding calves, my legacy. I called the sheriff, a property lawyer, the county zoning board. Everyone confirmed the same thing: the HOA had no authority here. None. The zoning hadn't changed, and no annexation could touch my rights. Margaret didn't care about the law. She craved control, and she picked a fight with someone who could aim and outlast. The next morning, tires crunched gravel again. I braced for her SUV, but it was a landscaping crew in neon vests, unloading mowers onto my pasture. Their leader waved a flimsy HOA maintenance order, citing community beautification. I snatched the paper. My land wasn't even in their jurisdiction. "Pack it up," I said, "or I'm calling the sheriff." They hesitated until Brutus lumbered over, 1,000 pounds of horns glaring through the fence. The crew bolted, tools rattling in their truck. But I wasn't laughing. Margaret was testing me, pushing boundaries to see if I'd break. I ordered bigger signs for every gate, bold with trespassing laws, and reviewed my footage. That's when I saw it, a clip from 2 nights ago, a figure in a blazer and heels creeping along my fence with a flashlight. Margaret, snooping, probably hunting for violations. My jaw clenched. This wasn't overzealousness, it was obsession. Then came a certified letter, a cease and desist, accusing me of defying community standards and threatening daily fines. They even claimed my cows might wander into shared spaces. Shared spaces? My nearest neighbor was half a mile away. I drove to the zoning office with every document, deeds, maps, even a 1950s zoning letter. The clerk, Tom, stared at me. "Pine Hills is claiming your land?" He checked the records. "Nope. Your parcel's never been part of their sub-BVY shown. They need your approval for annexation." I left with certified maps and a document stating my land was HOA-free. At the sheriff's office, Deputy Nate, an old rodeo buddy, watched my footage and grinned. "She's done for. Call if she steps foot here again." I posted the county documents on my gate, added a new lock, and installed a motion sensor that blared, "You are trespassing on private land. Leave now." 2 nights later, it went off. I grabbed my flashlight and pepper spray, creeping toward the south fence. There was Margaret, in heels, snapping photos of my barn. The floodlight hit her, and she yelled, "You can't harass me! This is HOA regulated!" I stepped closer, spray raised. "You're 10 steps past delusional and 30 seconds from jail," I said. Deputy Nate's cruiser rolled up, spotlight on her. "Ma'am, hands where I can see them," he called. She tried claiming it was a community inspection, but Nate cited her for trespassing. As she fumed in his cruiser, I waved. "Catch you on the scanner." The quiet that followed felt like a trap. Margaret wasn't the type to quit. I kept my cameras updated, my fences checked. Brutus seemed twitchy, like he sensed trouble. Then, one dusk, the alarm tripped on the western Serre-Vyce road. My monitor showed Margaret, dressed in black, ducking with a tote bag and measuring tape, muttering about non-compliant structures. I stepped out, flashlight on her. "Didn't expect company," I said. She screamed, then tried to bluff. "This violates municipal codes." I cut her off. "This is breaking and entering." As she lunged, yelling about citizen authority, Nate's voice cut through. He'd been pinged by my alarmed sheriff link. "Ma'am, you're under arrest for trespassing and harassment." She raged, calling me a rogue element. But Nate cuffed her. 2 days later, a neighbor, Sam, stopped by. "The HOA's in chaos," he said. Margaret had spent thousands of their funds on secret legal fees. Residents were demanding her ouster. I drafted a complaint to the county sheriff and a lawyer, including video links and documents. I requested a restraining order and an inquiry into HOA fund misuse. Then a reporter called, wanting my story. Word of Margaret's arrest had spread, and my footage of her in a cow field was gold. I hesitated but agreed. The segment aired, showing her parking lot meltdown, screaming at county staff, accusing the sheriff of collusion. It went viral, comments roasting her. The HOA board called an emergency vote. In a packed meeting, Margaret was stripped of her title. She pointed at me, screaming I was a fraud, but security escorted her out to applause. Then came the twist. My legal filings caught the county's eye, and my ranch was nominated for Historic Agricultural Heritage status, granting ironclad protections. Officials cited, praising my fight against suburban overreach. Neighbors apologized, some buying my eggs, others asking for HOA at VYCE. I built a new gate 10 feet of iron with a sign. Private ranch. Trespassers get the pepper. Motion sprinklers and cameras ensured no surprises. A local press friend made signs. HOA free zone. And Brutus runs security. Ranchers loved them. A lawyer called residents were suing the HOA for misuse of dues and wanted my testimony. I agreed. The news ran another story. Rancher defies HOA tyranny. Brutus became a local hero after chasing off those landscapers. One evening, a state agricultural rep cited. My heritage status had sparked interest in preservation grants. Margaret's meddling had backfired, bringing more good than she'd ever dreamed. As the sun set, I sat on my porch, lemonade in hand. Brutus grazed, unbothered. A rabbit tripped the motion light. No Margaret, just peace. At the driveway's end, a crooked sign read. We tried, he sprayed, we lost. I laughed and left it. What started with a clipboard ended with a community awakened, a ranch fortified, and a bull turned icon. I didn't want to fight, but when Margaret crossed my gate, she learned some land can't be tamed.